How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I found this video about everyday things I see in Dutch neighborhoods that I never saw in America. It's an American in Europe video by the channel Jordan Green. So links down below for this so you can go over there and check it out. I don't think I've ever reacted to one of his videos. I have seen them pop up from time to time when I'm scrolling through YouTube, but I don't think I've actually reacted to one of his videos yet. If I have, my apologies. Let me know about it, but I don't think I have. Anyways, thanks for watching with me. Hit like and subscribe, and let's see what this stuff is in the Dutch neighborhoods that they don't have here. I wonder if any of these are stuff I've seen before. I don't know. Like in videos, of course. I've never been in the Netherlands.
Dutch neighborhoods are different. And in this video, I want to talk about some of the biggest differences between Dutch neighborhoods and American neighborhoods. The first of which being the prevalence of townhomes. So here in the Netherlands, something that I've noticed is that most houses are townhomes. For example, you can see these houses right here are townhomes. Those houses over there are also townhomes. If you don't know what a townhome is basically a house that is connected to other houses. So it's kind of like a condominium, it's kind of like a house, just somewhere in between. But
so kind of like an apartment, but instead of it being apartments, it's like full-on houses. So do you own the house? Because it's part of a bigger building. What happens if like the bigger building sells? Interesting. I've seen duplexes where you'll have like two houses combined together. I don't know how that works though. Like who owns, what happens? Because it's still one building. Does one person own the whole building, or is it split in portions? Like, because it's connected. I don't know. It's confusing to me.
You walk inside, it is a house. Generally, they have multiple floors, just like a regular house.
Okay.
But again, the walls are all connected. This person's pulling into the driveway. This is kind of awkward. But generally, most of the houses here are going to be townhomes. And I mean, the reason why is pretty obvious. There's just less space on which to build out here. Therefore, they have to be much more efficient with their space. Now, for reference, I come from the DFW area.
It is true. I mean, the Netherlands is the most densely populated country in Europe. I'm going to go ahead and subscribe to this guy's channel, actually, because, like I said, I have seen his videos pop up, and I think they are always Dutch related. He's an American living in the Netherlands, so, yeah.
The Dallas-Fort Worth area, that is. And there were townhomes back in the DFW area, but they're definitely pretty rare. I would say they're much less common than single-family homes, which we will see some single-family homes here in about a minute or so. But as we go throughout this video, you'll notice that most of the houses in this particular neighborhood are townhomes. And really, to be honest, this neighborhood is a pretty good representation of what most Dutch neighborhoods that I've seen, at least, look like.
Now, what neighborhood is he referring to? We're going to look in the description. Does it say? No, it does not. Maybe the comments? Dun, 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 dun. 2 streets away, townhome. Oh, okay, righteous horse. Okay, I thought that was the name of a town. It's just the Dutch word for townhome. Righteous horse. I'm not pronouncing that right. I apologize for that for sure. Yeah, I don't see anything off the bat here, like pointing out what city or neighborhood he's in. So we're just gonna continue. Maybe you guys will know. Maybe you'll recognize it and point it out in the comments down there, huh?
Now, like I said, we're about to see some single-family homes, and that brings me to the next observation about Dutch neighborhoods in comparison to American neighborhoods, and that is the variety of different housing types, and also the variety in different types of architecture within the same neighborhood. So again, as we go throughout this video, you're gonna see in the background, because I have this GoPro with the wide angle lens, okay, you love to see it. I invested in it just so that you can see more of the background of my videos. but that's besides the point. You're gonna see that not all of the houses look the same. Not all of the townhomes look the same. Of course, when there's a row of townhomes, they'll probably look very, very similar to one another. But you can see right up here, we have some single family homes, and that right there looks completely different from what you saw at the beginning of the video.
Right.
With the townhomes. And over there even, you have a row of townhomes, but they're not all the same color. You don't really see that too much in Dallas. In Dallas, most of the newer developments follow what is known as a cookie cutter building pattern.
They all look the same, yeah.
That's the right way to describe it. But basically, what they do is they have a few different floor plans, and they pretty much duplicate the same house over and over and over again, or the same few houses over and over and over again within a neighborhood, and maybe change the color, maybe not. A lot of times when you go through a neighborhood in Dallas, especially a newer one, the houses are gonna look more or less the same. You're never really gonna see.
It's boring. And he's talking about more specifically the not neighborhoods like this. This neighborhood that he's in, I would assume, is organically built, right? It's not owned or controlled by one person or one entity as far as the entirety of this neighborhood. What he's talking about is there's these housing additions. That's what we call them here in the United States. And it's basically giant areas where it's a community. Normally they'll have a name, right? Oak Ridge Manor, for instance. And then, you know, you drive into the entrance, maybe there'll be 2 or 3 entrances. They'll usually have a sign, Oakwood Manor, if that's the name, right? And then you go in, and then it's built by one company, one entity. They own, like, you buy the land, like you own the house, you own whatever if you're buying it, but it's within their community, right? Those are the ones that you start hearing about, like homeowners associations and all that kind of stuff, where you got certain rules and regulations to follow living in that community. And I'm pretty sure that's what he's kind of saying here, where all the houses are the same, because they will be. You go into a housing addition, and it's like, you know, how do you recognize your house? You have to like look at your bushes. You know, they're that close.
See a whole lot of variety within a specific neighborhood, and if you try to make your house different from other houses, especially once again in the newer neighborhoods, they have this thing called homeowners association, which will promptly put an end to your dreams of standing out.
Don't go there. Don't live in those kind of communities. I advise against it. I never have, but I've been in them. I've heard about them. It's not, you know, it's not for me.
Which is kind of ironic, because the US is known for having a more individualistic culture, whereas Europe and the Netherlands as well are known for having more of a collectivist culture, but different discussion for a different day. Okay, you can see those houses look completely different from...
It's because, and he's not putting in the context of these are housing additions that he's talking about. It's not just areas. This is just an area. This is a neighborhood. This isn't like a company didn't just buy up this entire section of this city in the Netherlands and then build all the houses to profit from selling them all. You know what I mean? That's how it is here. You know, they buy up acre, couple acres, a few acres of land. I mean, probably more than that, but you get the idea. They buy up a giant chunk of land, and they basically just, they develop it up and they give it a name. And then of course there's the homeowner association. You have to agree to the rules to live there. But of course you can buy your house, you own the land there in it. But for some reason they can control. That's what I don't understand or like about it. But so he didn't put the context in that. So it's not just any neighborhood in the United States. There's neighborhoods here that's organically built, like what you see on the screen, or well, what you see now. Yeah. And those ones you can do whatever you want, you know, if it's just an organically built neighborhood, not an addition.
Those houses look completely different from those houses, and then the single family homes. As a matter of fact, we're going to walk back that way so that you can see more of the single family homes. And again, that's something that you'll never really see back home. Townhomes and single family homes and even apartments in the same neighborhood. And I'm
No, they
pretty
section it
sure,
off.
correct me if I'm wrong if you know more about this than I do.
No, that's true. They section it off. It's all about the zoning. Yeah. It's rare to see because a housing addition is a separate thing. It's by itself. And then you have this area and that area and yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that the zoning laws literally outlaw that sort of building pattern. So in other words, in the US, I don't think you can legally build an apartment complex within a neighborhood full of houses. I'm pretty sure you're not
No,
allowed to
yeah.
do that.
Which is they not just Bikes channel goes into a lot about that. They basically design the cities to where it's not walkable. The way that they section everything off and everything, nothing's there to mingle. You can't have, that's why you don't have a grocery store on every street like you do in Europe. You know, like in Europe, a lot of the European cities, what I've gathered, of course, is everything's there. You can walk down to the corner store, get your groceries, walk over here, get your shoes cobbled, you know, whatever, right? There's little shops dotted all over the place, little, you know, and it's all walkable. Here it's sectioned off. You know, the factories stay over there, the grocery stores stay over here. This, you know, so next thing you know, you're forced to get in a car and drive 10 miles to go to anywhere because nothing, you don't have the corner places everywhere. And it's unfortunate.
But I think that it's really nice to see a good variety of not
Yeah.
only architecture, but economic
Industry.
class. Okay, like I said earlier, you have single family homes and townhomes as well as apartments in the same neighborhood, but you can tell that at least within this neighborhood, which again I believe is a pretty good representation of a lot of Dutch neighborhoods, at least the ones that I've been to, you can tell that not everyone is at the same income level, at the same tax bracket, or working the same kinds of jobs. There are definitely some blue-collar workers within this neighborhood, definitely.
And that's nice to have variety. And that's, I think, with the United States, they separate poor people here, rich people here, fancy business people here. You know, it's nice to be able to just mingle with everybody in the community, right? Like, why segregate?
Definitely some white-collar workers, but you see right there, you have a nice house, Porsche outside, and then you have also nice houses, but a little bit smaller, literally right across the street from one another. You just don't really see that back home. And
Not too much.
again, disclaimer, I'm from Dallas. Maybe if you're from Boston, if you're from New York, that might be more common. Maybe the zoning laws are different. But where I'm from,
maybe.
you'll pretty much never see a house like that in the same neighborhood, or really maybe even in the same vicinity as an apartment complex. And again, I think this is good. I think it's good to allow.
I've seen it where it's one street over in certain places. Like I lived in Lima, Ohio for a little bit, and you'll have apartments on one road, one street, like everything going this way is all low end apartments, you know, and then literally just within a block it switches to like fancy high end places. So it's not really mingled together. It's just I happen to kind of be on that cutoff line in between the two neighborhoods. So along that in between path, you know, you'd have like the poor stuff on this side, rich stuff on that side. So on that one street, you would see stuff like that next to each other, but just in those isolated kind of areas, I guess.
All the different socioeconomic classes to intermingle with one another and sort of alleviate some of the classism that would otherwise be much, much worse than it already is. Now, on the topic of houses, another thing that I've noticed about Dutch neighborhoods that I never really saw back home is that very few homes here have garages.
Well, and one thing I know, there's a lot of solar panels on these roofs over here. Oh yeah, the no having garage thing. I think that the concept of a garage built onto a house is more of an American thing, I believe. I do believe that people have separate garages. In Britain, they call them garages or whatever, right? Not normally built into the house, but I have seen it. I have seen it, but a lot of that's older, left over from like back in the day when it was like a carriage house, I think. I don't know for sure.
And the ones that do have garages tend to have one-car garages. You see some of the houses right here. These are big houses, okay? These are big houses by Dutch standards, maybe not by Dallas standards. I don't want to record inside of people's houses, but you can see that a lot of these houses have one-car garages at best. Back home, I think that was literally illegal. Again, I don't think that you're actually allowed to build new development
Really?
without a garage.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever seen a home in Dallas that was built after the 1950s that didn't have a two-car garage.
But of course, Dallas, though, that's different. I mean, everything's bigger in Texas. Everything, they have bigger land, bigger houses. They build houses all the time here without garages. Most of the time they have garages, but they do build them without. In my area, northern Indiana. Never been to Texas. Things are different in Texas, though. United States is massive. It's different from state to state, really.
I don't think I've ever seen that before until I came here, especially these larger houses. That's just not something that you see. So you might be wondering, well, where do the people park? Well, when you have a driveway like this, you can park in the driveway. But a lot of houses actually don't have driveways either, especially the townhomes. I mean, you can see over there, where's the driveway? There is none.
Half those people don't have cars, though. I mean, to be fair, half of them don't have a car or have any desire to have a car. A lot of them use bicycles, probably.
So where do they park?
Public transportation.
Well, they park on the street, as you can see. There's a lot more street parking out here.
And that's another thing too, you know, with America, it's so car dependent. So car dependent. They design it that way, like I was saying earlier. So being so car dependent, you know, you got to have, I mean, there's people here where it's like you got 4 people living in the house and they each got their own car. You know what I mean? Like that's just, so it's different. There's less need for cars in general there, less need for car parking.
But also leads me into the next thing that I see in Dutch neighborhoods that I never saw back home.
Was that hold on, is that a thatch roof? That's a thatch roof. That is so cool. Sorry, but that's so cool.
The next thing that I see in Dutch neighborhoods that I never saw back home, and that is that Dutch neighborhoods tend to have parking lots. So this right here kind of threw me for a loop, because that's something I never saw back home. Not even on occasion, was that here you will have houses, and I'm going to try to find a way to walk around so that I can show you a good example of this, but you'll basically have neighborhoods with houses and townhomes, but they'll have parking lots. A parking lot as you would see outside of a store, or maybe at an apartment complex. You'll see that outside of the houses and townhomes. That was very, very strange to me when I first saw it. But I mean, it works.
I've seen that in some areas here.
Parking, at least in this neighborhood. Maybe in the bigger cities it's a little bit different, but in this neighborhood there's ample parking for everyone. Maybe you have to park a little further than you'd like from your house sometimes, especially if you get back kind of late, but you're never going to be without a parking spot in a neighborhood like this one. And this is probably about as suburban as it's going to get in the Netherlands, as far as just having a stretch of land with primarily houses. There's still grocery stores and other things within walking distance, but
see, there still is. So why can't they do it in America here?
Generally speaking, this is the closest that you're going to get to that traditional American cookie cutter kind of vibe that was the norm for me back home. But another thing, as I walk to this parking lot so that I can show you what I'm talking about, another thing that I've noticed in Dutch neighborhoods that I never saw back home, especially in Dallas, are bike lanes. Okay, you can see I'm walking on a bike lane right now, and this right here is very, very typical of Dutch neighborhoods. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've seen a Dutch neighborhood that lacked a bike lane, at least not to this point. And this right here is probably the single greatest game changer. Hold on real quick, let's just go back to what I was saying about the variety in architecture. Okay, those houses, the townhomes, look completely different from those houses, the single family homes. They all look completely different from one another. But anyways,
Those look
bike
similar.
lanes,
Hold
single
on.
family homes, they all look completely different from
This road, this side was built by the same people.
one another.
They all look, I mean, look at them. They look similar.
But anyways, bike lanes. Here, bike lanes are the norm, and I know I've beat this topic to death throughout my recent videos, but that is for good reason, okay? It still blows my mind, not that I can bike everywhere here in the Netherlands, but that I can't bike anywhere back home in Dallas. It blows my mind that that's not even a possibility most of the time, because not only are there not bike lanes, but a lot of times you can't even really bike on the sidewalk because the sidewalk will just end. A lot of times you can't even walk anywhere.
I'm trying to find the footage. I don't know where it's at, but I wanted, a couple years ago, I was going to make a video about sidewalks here, compare it to Dutch sidewalks, and or bike lanes in Netherlands, right? Compared to sidewalks here, which is like our closest thing to bike lanes in some places. And there's literally a spot where the sidewalk ends, and there's like a tree or a bush growing. Just the sidewalk just completely, if you just keep going straight, you're running into a bush. And there's no sidewalk on the other side of it. Like it's, yeah, it's crazy.
Anywhere. Which, by the way, brings me to the sidewalk will just end. A lot of times you can't even walk anywhere. Which, by the way, brings me to the next thing that I see in Dutch neighborhoods that I didn't really see back home very frequently, and that is pedestrians walking through the neighborhoods. Now, part of the reason why there are a lot more pedestrians here, and right now you're not going to see a whole lot because, for one, it is freezing cold out here. Freezing cold. But also, I tend to avoid high traffic areas when I make these videos because, little secret between you and me, I have social anxiety. I don't like to film in public. It draws a lot of attention, and I don't really like attention that much.
I don't
Even
either.
after filming all of these videos that I filmed, after getting to 100,000 subscribers, I don't really like attention, but
Right.
different discussion for a different day.
You
see a lot more pedestrians walking around the neighborhoods, and one of the reasons why this is because when you have a dog here in the Netherlands, you more often than not will not have a grass backyard. Okay, a lot of the houses here do not have grass yards in the same way that the houses in Dallas would. As a matter of fact, once again, I don't think it's legal to even have a house without a yard in Dallas unless it's a townhome. I think that the zoning laws prohibit that from happening. But here, very few people will have grass yards. You'll have a yard, maybe, but you won't have a grass yard more often than not. And so the only way that your dog can relieve his or herself is, well, you have to take them for a walk. So you see a lot of people walking their dogs at all hours of the day. And I mean, if you like dogs, then hey, this is a great place to be because a lot of people.
But then you got to scoop it up after them and gotta follow them around with a bag, huh?
People here have dogs, but also you'll just see people walking for leisure. Some people walk to go to the grocery store and whatnot, but really most of the people that I see walking, they're probably out walking with their family members, and they don't really look like they have a destination in mind. They are just walking at a very leisurely pace, kind of like I'm doing right now. I don't have a destination in mind. I'm just showing you what I'm talking about. And yeah, people here, they love to walk, and I see why. I mean, when you have a neighborhood that's this interesting, maybe Dutch people might not find this neighborhood all that interesting, but as an American, this is a very interesting neighborhood just off the aesthetic alone.
Yeah.
When you have a neighborhood that's this interesting, of course walking is going to be a much more pleasant experience. And also something I've noticed is that when a neighborhood is more dense, walking is much more pleasant because distance, your perception of distance changes. So you can see everything is built up. It's a very dense neighborhood. Now mind you, if I were to walk probably 5 or so minutes in that direction, or I think that direction, I'll literally be at a farm. Okay, so it doesn't take that long to go
Farm?
to a completely desolate area. But when you're in the neighborhoods, when you're in the thick of it, it's very dense. It's a very dense environment. And again, it makes walking
Yeah.
much more pleasurable. But back home, again, a lot of times the sidewalks will literally just end, okay, with
Or turn into a tree.
no warning, no sign, no nothing. And you either have to walk on the grass, which may or may not be possible, or you have to go out into the street and walk in the street with cars going 40 miles an hour. It's probably what, 50, 55 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
And if you like, well, living, then you just don't do that. Now, another thing that I've noticed about Dutch neighborhoods that I never really saw back home is mail slots. What do I mean by mail slots? Well, if you haven't noticed, up to this point in the video, there are no mailboxes here.
Okay, it's the ones on the door then, right? I've seen these.
There are no mailboxes, maybe in other neighborhoods, but not in this one, not in any one that I've been to. There are no mailboxes. Oh, well, I literally just said that, and then there's a mailbox right there. I think that's a mailbox. That's the first mailbox I've ever seen in the Netherlands. And I don't know why they're the only house with a mailbox. Again, that sort of thing wouldn't be possible back home with the homeowners association. But most houses here will have a mail slot in the door that the mailman can simply walk up to.
I've seen
and
it.
put the mail in. And
Some neighborhoods, some places here in the United States have that. Some places do. I stayed in a place in Fort Wayne that was like that, and the doors, the whole neighborhood was like that.
And I imagine this would probably be really, really inconvenient for the mailman, because
Walking mailman. They parked at the end of the block and then they walked up the street.
then he has to get out of his car, his truck, whatever, and walk up to the door
It happens.
and put the mail into each individual door. I don't want to record inside
good.
people's houses, but you can see that door right there, for example, has that mail slot. It's probably really inconvenient for the mailman, whereas back home, he would just drive around in the truck, go up to the mailbox, put the mail in. But for the homeowners, I would say it's much more convenient because they don't have to go out in the cold and the rain.
Right.
They get the mail delivered directly to them in the safety, security, and warmth of their home.
That is true. Although it makes you susceptible to pranks. Somebody could just shove like a smoke bomb through your little mail slot or something if they wanted to prank you. I don't know. Just thinking of a rebuttal to that, I guess, because you know that's how my brain works. But anyways, this was a cool video. Jordan Green, huh? So I subscribe. You should go check out his channel. Subscribe too. Looks like it's going to be pretty good content. This was a good video. Thanks for watching with me. Thanks for the support. Hit like and subscribe on my video and channel as well. You guys have a super fun, awesome day. I will catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye.